When you finally stop caring, when your energy pulls back, when your heart is no longer chasing, that is the exact moment the avoidant feels something they never prepared for. And what most people don't understand is that avoidants are not afraid of love. They are afraid of losing control, and when you stop caring, control slips out of their hands, so they use one last psychological trick that looks innocent on the surface but is deeply manipulative underneath. This trick is not about love, it is about regaining power. Suddenly they become softer, more attentive, they check in casually, they appear emotionally available in small controlled doses, not enough to commit, not enough to heal you, just enough to reopen the emotional door you finally closed. And this is where most people get trapped again, because the avoidant senses distance like a threat, not to their heart, but to their safety system. When you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop chasing, their nervous system panics, not with love, but with fear of abandonment mixed with entitlement. They believe you should still orbit them emotionally even if they never gave you security. So they re-enter quietly, testing you, dropping breadcrumbs, reminding you of inside jokes, shared memories, emotional nostalgia, all designed to activate your attachment while keeping theirs protected. This is the dirty trick. They act healed without actually healing. They act reflective without taking responsibility. They mirror growth without committing to it, and the moment you lean in again, the moment you show emotional availability, the moment they feel safe enough, they pull back again, colder, more distant, more detached than before, leaving you confused, doubting your progress, questioning whether you imagine their change. And the truth is you didn't imagine it. It was intentional. Avoidants do not reconnect to build something new. They reconnect to regulate their fear. They use your attention as emotional anesthesia. And when it works, they disappear again. This is why stopping caring is so powerful. Because it exposes the final mask. When you truly stop caring, not pretending, not waiting for a reaction, but genuinely detaching, their trick fails. They have nothing to hook into. No emotional response to manipulate. No validation to extract, and that is when the roles reverse, because the avoidant is left alone with the discomfort they avoided for years, the emptiness, the unresolved fear, the suppressed grief, and this is where their real suffering begins, not when you begged, not when you cried, but when you walked away silently, emotionally unavailable, healed and no longer reachable, and this is only the beginning of what happens next. When you truly stop caring and the avoidant realizes their final trick did not work, something shifts inside them that they never expected to face. Because avoidants are experts at emotional delay, not emotional resolution. And when the usual tactics fail, when your silence is calm instead of angry, when your distance is peaceful instead of punishing, their internal system begins to collapse in slow motion, not dramatically, not loudly, but in a quiet panic that they cannot name. This is the phase where they start replaying everything, not from love, but from loss of control. Because what hurts an avoidant most is not heartbreak. It is irrelevance. It is the realization that they no longer matter emotionally to someone who once centered them. And this is where their mind turns against them. Every suppressed emotion they avoided by staying busy, detached, or emotionally superior starts surfacing, but instead of processing it honestly, they rewrite the story. They tell themselves they were the one who pulled away first, that they never needed you, that they are fine alone. Yet their behavior betrays them. They stalk your presence indirectly. They watch from a distance. They ask about you through others. They check social media without engaging. They feel jealousy without admitting it, because jealousy requires emotional investment, and that terrifies them. This internal conflict creates a loop. They want connection but fear vulnerability. They crave reassurance but reject intimacy. They miss you but refuse accountability, and this tension is exhausting. So what do they do next? They try to provoke a reaction, not directly, but subtly, posting things meant to be seen, aligning themselves with new people to signal desirability, rewriting the narrative to appeal unbothered, hoping something reaches you, hoping you feel replaced, hoping you break your silence, because if you react, they regain power. Even negative attention feels safer than being emotionally invisible. But when you do not react, when you continue living, healing, growing without referencing them, the avoidant experiences something unfamiliar, emotional exposure without escape. They cannot run from the fact that they lost access to your emotional world. And this is when the regret phase begins. not regret for the pain they caused, but regret for the comfort they lost, because you were stable, predictable, emotionally available, and now you are gone, and they feel the vacuum where your presence used to regulate their nervous system. Nights become louder, distractions stop working, connections feel shallow, intimacy feels risky, and they start comparing everyone to the safety they never appreciated, but instead of reaching out honestly, they fantasize, they imagine what they would say. They rehearse conversations they will never have, because true vulnerability still feels more dangerous than loneliness. And this is why avoidants often stay stuck in limbo, longing without action, missing without repair, suffering silently while appearing fine externally. And this is the most important truth most people miss. When you stop caring genuinely, you do not trigger an avoidance love response. You trigger their self-awareness, and that awareness is painful, because it forces them to confront the pattern they avoided for years, the pattern of pushing away what they want most. And some avoidants will finally choose growth here, therapy, reflection, accountability, but many will not. Many will choose numbness again, another distraction, another surface-level bond, another cycle, because healing requires staying present with discomfort, and avoidants are conditioned to flee from it. So while you move forward, building a life grounded in emotional safety, they remain frozen in emotional time, repeating the same story with different characters. And this is the real ending most people never see, not dramatic reunions, not apologies, but divergence. Two people moving in opposite emotional directions, one toward wholeness, the other toward repetition. And if they ever do come back after this phase, it is not because you waited, not because you proved your worth, but because you no longer need them. And by then, you are no longer the same person who once would have opened the door. When the avoidant finally understands that you are not coming back emotionally, that your silence is not a tactic, and your distance is not a test, the last layer of their defense begins to crack, because for the first time they are forced to sit with the truth they spent their entire life avoiding. That they did not lose you because you stopped loving them, they lost you because they never learned how to stay. And this realization does not arrive with clarity or maturity at first. It arrives as discomfort, restlessness, and a vague sense of something being wrong that they cannot fix by withdrawing or distracting themselves. This is where the avoidant experiences delayed grief, not the kind that cries openly, but the kind that lives quietly in the background, surfacing at unexpected moments in empty rooms, during late nights, while watching others connect effortlessly. And what makes this grief unbearable is that it cannot be blamed on you. There is no fight to point to, no dramatic ending, no obvious villain, just a slow emotional disappearance that reflects their own pattern back at them. And this is why many avoidants romanticize the past at this stage, not because the relationship was perfect, but because it represented a version of themselves that still had access to safety without vulnerability. And they miss that version more than they miss you. They replay moments where you were patient, understanding, forgiving, and instead of feeling gratitude, they feel shame, because shame is safer than responsibility. It allows them to suffer without changing. And this internal conflict hardens into emotional paralysis. They want connection but fear exposure. They want intimacy but dread dependence. They want you but cannot become the person who could keep you. And this is the quiet tragedy of the avoidant pattern. They are not evil. They are unfinished, emotionally arrested at a stage where closeness felt dangerous. And when you stop caring, you do not punish them. You simply stop protecting them from their own consequences. And this is where the power truly shifts, not because you become cold, but because you become whole. Your nervous system no longer waits for their signals. Your mind no longer searches for meaning in their absence. Your heart no longer negotiates for crumbs. And this internal stability is something the avoidant senses, but cannot access. They may reach out one last time here, not with games, not with breadcrumbs, but with confusion, testing whether the door is still open. And if you respond from strength instead of longing, something irreversible happens. They realize they cannot return to the old dynamic, because you are no longer the person who would carry the emotional weight for two. And this realization is terrifying for them, because it means any future connection would require them to show up fully or not at all. And most avoidants have never learned how to show up fully, so they retreat again, not out of manipulation this time, but out of self-protection. And this is where closure actually happens, not in conversation, not in explanations, but in emotional mismatch becoming undeniable. You move forward not because they failed, but because you outgrew the role you were forced into. And while the avoidant may carry the memory of you as the one who got away, you carry something far more valuable: self-respect, emotional clarity, and the ability to choose love that does not require self-abandonment. And this is the final truth: the real power is not in making an avoidant regret losing you, it is in reaching a place where their regret no longer matters. Because your life is no longer shaped by their fear.